Welcome back. We're now going to start our afternoon session. We have the following session is going to be on institutional voices, and we're going to speak about how to concretely implement student mobility. And I will now give the floor to our moderator for this session, which is Violeta Osochova, which is the director of the International Relations Office at Masaryk University. So, Violeta, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before I start, could I ask you, I assume you hear me, but can you see me? Normally I have this problem that the people hear me, but they cannot see me. So I'm happy that you also see me. And I'm very, very happy to open this session this afternoon, and we will talk about the institutional voices implementing student-blended mobility. I know that it's not easy to have a session after lunch. If it's difficult before lunch because we are hungry, it is much more challenging to have it after lunch because now we are full and we are sleepy and it is not very easy. But this is why you probably noticed that the session is in a different format. So we will have a lot of presentations. It is not a panel session, but it will be a presentation session. It was already mentioned, I'm Violeta Osochova from the International Office of Masaryk University. I'm also part of this great project, HIBLend, and we are going to talk also about the results and the implementation. But it's my really honor and pleasure to moderate this session, which brings together actually colleagues, but also experts and practitioners who have been experimenting, piloting, testing, refining how to work, how to implement blending mobilities. And I hope that our talks today will be not only about BIPs, though they are very popular, but we will talk about alternative mobilities that are all these kind of blended mobilities. This session is about the practical reality. We heard a lot about what should be and how it would be at the end, but now we want to see how it works on the ground, how the institution design the programs that involve these blended mobilities, and then what attracts the students and how the students experience it, how they enjoy it. In my opinion, I don't know if you have the same opinion, it's very easy to talk about policies and how it should be done, what all these great pictures. But we want to ask now this afternoon these childish questions. Why? Why we work with these blended mobilities? And I hope that you will not answer me because they are funded. This is not the correct answer, so don't answer this way. We have to see the strategies behind this, why we go for blended mobilities, how they support our strategies for internationalization. So this will be one of the parts. Then how we structure the online and the physical part of the course so they are at the same value for students. And how we address the pedagogical accessibility challenges and these operational, administrative issues that sometimes from people from the policy makers probably even cannot imagine how many problems we have with administration, with pure administration of those courses. And at the end, not the last but not the least, is the evaluation. Again, practical issues. What kind of data we need, what kind of data we collect, how we use the evaluation to make these courses much more sustainable and attractive. So if this reminds you something that you heard this morning, Yes, it is very connected to the framework of HIBLend project. And this morning we heard that the HIBLend framework was translated into this lovely, super good digital tool. But this afternoon we will try to translate it into practical reality. So what we want to focus on and what we want to focus the session on is the first stage or the first phase. If you remember, I will not test you, but the first phase was the strategic consideration. Why institutions work with this blended activities? How does it align with the institutional mission, with our internationalization goals, also with the digital strategy, because they're also very connected to the digital strategy, and also with the inclusions. How many of you consider these courses as a big part of our inclusion strategies? So let's dive into this, and then see what is the inside this strategy, what is attractive for students and staff. The second phase, do you remember, was the design, how we design these courses. And we heard a lot about the digital part. And I want to stress again that there is not only one model of blended courses and blended mobility. So according to this, also the digital and physical part could be different. And it is again aligned with the strategies that we have, with the learning activities, learning outcomes that we define at the beginning. So this is very important also to be said this afternoon. Third phase, implementation. This is where everything comes really real. So how we select the students, what kind of IT support we need, intercultural competencies, facilitation, administrative workflow from A to Z, and it is not that easy to talk about all these aspects in a very small time slots. And the final pillar, the final phase, is the evaluation, which is also very, very important. And we heard a few words about this this morning as well. Across these 4 pillars, 4 phases, in HIBLend we talk about the quality, the inclusions, recognition, but in practical aspects of recognition, and also institutional learnings. So you're going to hear 3 presentations. Unfortunately, we planned to have 4, but at the very last moment we had to cancel one of the presentations because of some health issues of the presenters. So we will hear 3 presentations. In one of the presentations, we will focus on how to design and deliver these courses with pedagogical coherence between physical and online components. Another presentation will be focused on alternative internationalization forms and how we work to make the study, the curriculum more inclusive, strategically embedded. And we will also talk about the administrative issues I mentioned from A to Z, what we need and how to cope with the problems that we have to face. I'm not alone, you probably notice. I've been joined by an excellent panel of practitioners. Each of them will offer concrete illustration of one or more phases of the HIBLend framework. And I invite you to listen and not only to see how they manage to prepare these excellent courses, but also to think about what is the takeaway for you, what you have to bring from this conference. If nothing else, some very practical aspects from the presentation this afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to present you the first colleague who is going to share his presentation and also his experience. This is Professor Robert O'Dowd. He's joining online. He's from the University of Lyon, Spain. He's one of the Europe's leading experts in virtual exchange and innovative online pedagogy. His work shows how well-designed online collaboration can transform international learning. He is listed also among Stratford University World's top 2% scientifics for 2022-24. So, Professor O'Dowd, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm saying good morning because I haven't eaten yet, right? I'm talking to you from Spain, and you know that lunch only happens from 2 o'clock onwards. Okay, so I'm very sorry that I can't actually be with you today. I would have loved to have attended this conference. I've been working with as an advisor on this project, and I would really have liked to have attended and see how all of this comes to an end. But I have a very good excuse. And that is that this week, this morning, in fact, is the start of the physical mobility phase of my blended intensive program, right? This one that I'm going to talk to you about a little bit today. Okay, so we've only been running the course for 4 hours, and we've already have problems with people not getting their vegan sandwiches, and a teacher breaking her tooth and needing to go urgently to a dentist. So I hope you'll forgive me if I make my presentation and then go back and get on with all the fun that I'm having. Okay, so and what I'm going to do this morning or this afternoon, as I say, is tell you a little bit briefly about the background of the project, about how it is, what its aims, how it works, and then I'm going to tell you that some of the 5 main takeaways, shall I say, that myself and my colleagues have learned from running this BIP over 4 iterations, 4 years. Okay. So this BIP is called Innovation in Foreign Language Education, and it's aimed at MA students, master students that are training to become foreign language teachers in their countries. And so they're training to become secondary school teachers. And so, we introduce different innovative methods to them. We get them to compare teaching traditions and teaching practices in their countries. And what we do is the main focus of the BIP, with the way we structure it, is we give them all each group of these students, these international students, a challenge that they have to come up with a solution for, basically. All right. So we've been running it for 4 years. Basically, it's myself and a colleague who is originally in Bochum. Now she's in another university in Leuphana in Germany. And the 2 of us have been coordinating it and developing it over the 4 years. Students come from our universities, from our own classes, because we're both teacher trainers. But we also have colleagues that are universities that send us their students as well. And basically this year it's been incredibly successful. In the rooms across the way from where I'm talking to you now, we have 70 students and 20 teacher trainers who have come along, again at their own cost, to participate, to accompany their students, and some of them that have come on their own, basically just to take part in the week and to take part in the collaborations that we do. How is it structured? Well, we have an online collaborative group work, which requires students to meet and work in international working groups each week. We have an online plenary session each week during the virtual mobility phase, where we have guest speakers coming and we get our students to talk to them. And then everybody comes to Leon for 5 days, which is, like I said, what's happening right now. And then the evaluation is through a learning portfolio that we ask them to submit at the end. Okay. So this is what it looks like. We have about 4 to 5 weeks of invited guest lecturers or teacher trainers from our network that speak to the students, and we get them then to engage with them a little bit. But we also give them, during the online phase, We put them into working groups from where all the different countries are represented, and we get them to work on their collaborative project together. And then finally, they come together for their 1 week where they spend the week collaborating together with us. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, you were talking about, what technologies we need. Well, this is pretty low tech. We try to keep it simple, right? We have a Padlet. Most of you, I imagine, are familiar with Padlet, where we post all the news items related to the project. In each week, we post, what's happening on that week, the task sheets that they have to work on, etc., etc. And then we let students choose their own video conferencing tool for their own breakout room meetings. So they, some of them use Zoom, some of them use Google Meet. It depends. So like I said, I'm going to give you kind of 5 takeaways that we have kind of learned over the past 4 years. All right. The first one is that you should, when you're organizing a BIP or a blended mobility program, try to build one whole, truly blended and interlinked process. Do not treat the online phase as just mere preparation for the real business of the physical mobility phase. Myself and my colleague were reviewing a lot of the literature about blended mobility at the moment, and we noticed that a lot of practitioners and a lot of the people that are doing this, they tend to treat the online phase as mere preparation. Okay, it's mere, getting students ready for the interesting stuff that will happen when they are together for their 1 week. And that is, I think, underestimating the potential of the online phase. So to avoid that, you draw up objectives which can be achieved through both phases. Yeah? The activities should be interlinked. Okay, and so what they start online, they can finish face to face. All right. And evaluation criteria for the success of passing the blended mobility project should be linked to the online activities as well as to the work that happens when you're on campus together. All right. A second thing that I would recommend is to ensure equal treatment of mobile and non-mobile students. I know that this is something that in the HIBLend publications that this has been mentioned as an issue. In BIPs, by definition, there is going to be one group that are not mobile, okay, that never get to go abroad. And the challenge is to try to find ways to make the BIP as interesting as possible for them, right? This is one quotation from one of my students here in Leon, because we always receive them. We're always the host. And she says, all the Spanish students agreed that it is not fair for us to stay in Leon while the other countries get to travel abroad. I know that coming to Leon is what makes this possible, and that changing the final destination would imply too much trouble. But I would have loved to have as a final destination a different country from the ones collaborating in the exchange, so that we were all on equal terms. I agree, and I think you can all appreciate that, that they all get to say, well, everybody else gets to travel abroad and we don't. But I'm not too sure how that can be solved within the funding structure of a BIP. Also, don't reduce the online phase to teacher-centered lectures. Use the online phase for collaboration and for group work that is going to be interesting and rewarding for the students. Okay, design student-centered online tasks which lead to genuine collaboration and exchange of perspectives. Online group work can require students to compare national or regional perspectives, and then tasks can also require students to reach some kind of conclusion work. So we really need, I think, when getting our teachers ready to do these type of projects, I really think we need to give extra time and training to how to work the online phase. And what type of tasks are going to get students collaborating, interacting successfully together. For example, students may be asked in their working groups to compare how a certain problem or issue is experienced in their home universities, and then they work together to draw up a list of commonalities or differences and present solutions to the other groups. So, the online phase has to be quite structured. Students have to be clear in each meeting, in each week, what are they setting out to do, okay? Well, myself and my colleagues, we always draw up kind of work task sheets so that each week they know exactly, what to do when they're in together. Otherwise, you're just throwing people into Zoom rooms and seeing if some kind of magic happens. And very often it doesn't. And it's not fair to the students to do that. Another thing, Invest time building relationships, especially if the online phase is before the physical mobility phase. Yeah. Use the initial weeks of the virtual phase to help students form good working relationships. We organize them into working groups, right, where they get to know each other. They see the same people every week. Include a requirement for working group meetings each week. Make sure that they are meeting each week. And provide tasks which encourage them to find out more about their partners' lives, universities, and cultures. Don't get them stuck into the actual content or the curricular content straight away. Our students are humans. They need to, first of all, have a sense of trust with, shall we say, and comfort with the people that they are working with. So, spend time to that. Also, I think we need to help them with the virtual collaboration. Like I said, by providing task sheets. Each week, we also assign a student chairperson. So one person is in charge each week in the working group to lead the conversation, to make sure everybody participates, maybe to write a short report about it, So for example, we say this week it's the Germans' turn. Next week is the Spanish people's turn. And this, having a chairperson in these meetings keeps them working quite well. And very importantly, discuss the online interactions during class time. So if you as a teacher are having your students participate in a BIP, when they come to your normal class, talk to them, ask them what have they done in their BIP that week, what have they learned, what problems have emerged, so integrate it into class so that it's relevant for them. And finally, I would suggest that you introduce a theoretical context, so lectures, guest speakers, effectively. What does that mean by doing it effectively? Well, teachers can, for example, provide a listening guide beforehand with a list of questions. So before they give their talk, they have a list of questions that the students have to try to answer while they listen. Encourage students to add comments and questions to the chat, all right? So they don't simply just turn off their videos and disappear. And when lectures and talks conclude, students can be directed to breakout rooms to discuss questions related to content. All right, that's how we try to organize things. Okay, for those of you that are running BIPs, maybe none of this is rocket science, right? It's not new, but I think for those of you that haven't done BIPs before, or you're just beginning, these might be some basic useful tips, I think, about the methodology behind how it works. Okay, so that's it. I have put together a small a collection of bibliography about virtual exchange and blended mobility, which you are welcome to find here. And if you'd like to learn more about our BIP or anything else about what we're doing, feel free to email me or contact me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. And now it's time for questions. And please use the time because Professor Daut is going to leave.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
Quickly.
Yes, we need to get to a dentist pretty quickly.
So
that never happens during the online phase. That only happens during the physical mobility.
Yes, there is one question.
Can he hear me?
Distantly.
I can shout if you want.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Roberto from Trento University. I was curious about the student population. What kind of students are involved? So different disciplines or one only?
No, they're all master's students, and they're all doing some kind of master's degree that is getting them ready to become foreign language teachers in their countries.
Okay, so they study similar subjects in their own universities.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? There is a question about if we will publish the presentations and the speeches. So yes, it will be on the website. If you don't have any additional questions, thank you very much for presentation, also for your time to be with us.
Okay, and congratulations on your project. I'm very, very proud to have been associated with this project. I think you've done excellent work, so congratulations to all your team.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the physical mobilities you
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if
hosting.
everybody goes home alive afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy
Thank
your
you
day.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and we will continue with the second presentation, and I'm very happy to introduce you to our second presenter, who is Wans Kissels. I don't know, I'm sorry, from University of Tampere, who is coordinator of alternative internationalization formats and has been instrumental in expanding Antwerp's short programs and blended mobility offers. So once the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, I'll move this a bit up. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, so thanks for the introduction, and also thank you for the invitation. Also from my part, I want to express some words of gratitude for the invitation, for hosting this event in a hybrid way, which I think is really wonderful, and also for all the deliverables you've managed to come up with. So it looks quite impressive, and I feel that I won't be telling too much new things based on the framework that was presented this morning and of all the good practices that were or are showcased in the toolbox. But I will try to give some insights on our humble approach to implement blended mobility, student blended mobility at the University of Antwerp, here in Flanders, or here in Belgium. So I won't go too much into what we exactly did, or the insights on course design, for instance, or student evaluations, but I merely want to give you an idea on the process on how we try to build something up at our university. So I will, this is a bit the outline of the presentation. So I will also focus on some drivers, why blended mobility, student blended mobility can be interesting to organize from our institution's perspective, but also from the perspective of our study programs and faculties, academics organizing the programs, and then some reflections on enablers and barriers on participation in student blended mobility, which probably are mainly BIPs at this moment. Yet I was asked to give some reflections on other forms as well, so I will try to do so. Some quick facts and figures about University of Antwerp for those who don't know. So we're I would say medium-sized university, third university in Flanders, more than 20,000 students, quite research-oriented, so that's why we also have 6,000 staff members, of which many are researchers. And we are also a member of the UFE European Alliance. So, but I won't go too much into detail there, but I want to go to the relevant part. Some policy documents that helped us to build a stronger case internally. I wanted to highlight our first vision statement on internationalization that was approved by the Board of Governors back in 2019. And I include a quote here on the importance of not only focusing on mobility, but also of more on the acquisition of intercultural and international competences as a whole. And with mobility, both long-term and short-term, being a means to this end, as well as internationalization at home opportunities. And that's a bit the umbrella I want to stress and highlight. And we were lucky enough that our new management also included some really concrete actions on the development of blended intensive programs in their strategic policy plan for this current policy cycle, which I've also included here. So it might, probably it's in one way or another present in all of your policy documents, but I just want to add this here because it really helps to build a stronger case also towards people who are probably not always as convinced as we are here in this room and online. Quite important. So we were already trying to experiment with some forms of blended mobility before BIPs came to life, mainly in our summer schools, where we then used some online preparatory meetings and materials for as a way of testing and experimenting for students to get to know each other, to bring the minimum level of understanding to a certain base. But it was more fragmented ad hoc, I would say. But it was a good first experience. Also in the framework of an I-week at our Faculty of Business and Economics. There's also some testing with virtual collaboration before students from different parts of the world come together in Antwerp throughout the academic year, or throughout 1 week in the academic year. But it was more fragmented. And then obviously with COVID and then later or simultaneously the launch of blended intensive programs, the pace got a bit higher. We're the first ad hoc blended intensive program organized by our Faculty of Applied Engineering back in 2021. The Faculty of Applied Engineering at our university is also a member of a network, the Euclides network. They're pioneering also in the organization of blended intensive programs, organizing a number of programs among, if I'm not mistaken, 8 partner universities. Also have a dedicated mobility window in the curriculum for their students. So it's really a thankful initiative and thankful faculty to work with and to also launch it a bit further internally. So we really try to focus a lot on collecting the information, collecting the experiences and the practices, and then use these in internal calls, in presentations in different bodies in the university, making and drafting good practices, resources. And then from there, we started to, first considering to pick the low-hanging fruit, as was already mentioned here, with some summer schools that we try to tweak and try to reframe a bit into blended intensive programs. Although we decided not to invest too much time anymore in that, because combining the two dynamics of having first, the administration mainly of having the whole Erasmus procedure done for the group of BIP students, and then another simultaneous flow for external students who then pay for a summer school was a bit challenging. So we, it was interesting to do, but then we skipped the ID. And then later on, 2023, there was a deliberate unit founded, basically the unit Antwerp Summer and Winter University enlarged its scope towards also other alternative forms of internationalization. And there we try to integrate the way how we support the organization of blended intensive programs into the way that we're doing for summer schools organized at our university. So we're trying to streamline this process as much as possible, combining standardized information and available resources, manuals, and so on, with year-round ad hoc support for blended intensive or blended mobility organizers. One of the elements I want to highlight there is that, for instance, for our summer schools, we are already using for a longer while the validated student questionnaires that are also being used in the regular course evaluations throughout the academic year. Well, for the BIPs, we did the same. Plus, we added a layer in this evaluation questionnaire with some questions on the appreciation of the online phase, of the physical phase, of the integration of both. And then these insights, we also analyze them in an aggregated way, not only for the BIPs separately, but also for the institution as a whole. And then we try to draw some lessons from there and also inform future BIP organizers about these learnings, many of which are already being named in the previous sessions, but still it's interesting to have some insights on accents and nuances through these questionnaires. And then from 2024 onwards, we started consolidating and fine-tuning what we are doing with, I think, if it's not working. If somebody could go to the next slide. Yeah, you can. Okay. So that's where we are today. So we're at also because of the way our university is organized, quite decentrally organized. We're doing a dual level approach with a lot of central strategic coordination, but also with a lot of room for decentralized initiatives. So what's important there, obviously, is the collaboration internally in a team of not only having students, members from Central International Relations Office, myself, but also my colleague, who's the Erasmus Institutional Coordinator, who's key in knowing all the procedures. also people from the central educational department. But then at the level of the faculties also, we try to encourage as much as possible to have a team of academics, professors, but also the Erasmus coordinators at the faculty level in the team. And here you can find an overview of the things that we're doing from the central level, combined with some of the efforts at the faculty level, which are all quite straightforward, but important to offer it as a whole, I would say. Just to give an idea of the evolution of BIPs throughout the past years. So as you can see, in this academic year, we have 7 programs scheduled from 7 different faculties. So it's quite satisfying to see that it's becoming quite widespread within the university. So many of them are also traveling initiatives, so they will probably go to another location next year. But we see already now that there's interest from other initiatives to come to Antwerp in the future as well. So I think this is really working now. After the initial efforts, it's nice to see. How do we try to convince academics or faculties or study programs to take the step and take the initiative to organize a blended intensive program? So mainly there are obviously 2 modalities. So there's BIPs in Antwerp, which contribute to internationalization at home opportunities for our own students, but also for the possibility to invite students from partner institutions, or you can also provide widening participation by offering other inclusive forms of mobility. And for us, it's really important to see it as a part of an integrated whole. So they're really part of the same strategies and the same priorities. And so we try to highlight some benefits at different levels. I will show you it in a minute as well. Level of academic study programs and students. And it's important to mention that there's a variety in the strategy, in the way it's implemented, and also how the program eventually will look like. And it's perfectly fine that these drivers coexist. And in some cases, the emphasis will be a bit more on, for instance, the networking and the partnerships with other institutions, where in other cases it will be more on pedagogical innovation and exploring new learning and teaching methods. So this is just the framework that we offer, and it's a bit up to the organizers to pick whatever is for them the most important. And this really allows us to find a common ground with many of the faculties that are now taking the initiative to organize a program. Some enablers on why it works in our experience. So first, for staff or study programs to take the step to organize a BIP is in some way the recognition of the workload. It's already been mentioned before. So the ways in which it's being done is they're quite different. It could be, in some cases, part-time academic staff member is appointed for a small percentage extra to run the blended intensive program. If it's really part of the curriculum and the teaching assignment of a professor, it's also appreciated in a higher way than it would be than if it's not embedded in the work package of the professors. But the recognition is important. Then also, like I mentioned, the support at the faculty and central level. And then what we're also trying to use, but I guess not in the same way as a Civis Alliance, for instance, is we're trying to use the vehicle of our alliance also as a lever to run the BIPs more smoothly. So from next academic year onwards, our alliance will pilot with a new UFE label for BIPs. But what we've been doing in the past is also trying to use our alliance to fill in the empty spots in BIPs that would, for instance, not come to their minimum number of participants. So, and that's really a way for people at the faculties to also feel the benefits of what the alliances could offer for them, which is sometimes a challenge. For students, obviously, appealing innovative teaching and learning formats, the grants shouldn't, of course, are there and are appealing for them because they are, compared to longer-term mobility grants, quite generous, although there are challenges, of course. And then what is a really important one is a clear communication about how the program can be recognized in the curriculum of students. And then the dedicated mobility window, as I mentioned. And then the barriers, they're a bit the other side of the coin. So uncertainty about funding and about minimum number of participants, obviously. Then one point I will try to explain. So if we want to really embed blended intensive programs as part of curricula, the project-based logic of granting BIPs doesn't always facilitate this process, because the way to redesign, let's say, curricula or to redesign study programs is a bit takes more time, sometimes 1.5 years to tweak or change curricula, and not knowing in advance whether funds will be available is really a barrier for study programs to take this step. Also, the idea, I don't know if it's the case in all regions, but the idea that the same program can't be organized twice under the same contract is a bit, feels a bit unlogical from our point of view, because if you would just repeat the same program for a different group of students and you can just learn from what you've been doing in the past, it's way more efficient. The time invested is way lower, yet the learning opportunities for students are quite high. So this is something, I know that the funding logic won't probably change, but something important to mention, because like I mentioned, getting it really clearly in the curriculum and in the study program is a good way for students to participate. And also, and that's something I also keep on mentioning actually, is that there's actually no incentive to have a high participation of domestic students. And if you look back at the main drivers for university to facilitate the blended intensive programs, one of them is creating valuable internationalization at home opportunities, really making use of the international presence of a group coming into Antwerp in our case. But we don't always have domestic students or a high number of domestic students, and that links to this curricular embedding as well. So I think a main challenge still lies there. Which brings me to a couple of conclusions, if I may. That's what I just said, actually. The bottom line is that we want to equip our students with these competences. And we think that there are many paths, but student-blended mobility are a really valuable tool to achieve this, and to achieve this internal collaboration within the university, but also external collaboration with partners is quite crucial to implement it, but also to scale it later on. Leaving me with a couple of open questions that could maybe be tackled in the discussion or question and answers afterwards. Like was already mentioned during this morning sessions, how to ensure high quality, well-integrated mobility experience, how to maximize internationalization at home potential through participation of domestic students, and what about the future? I think that's a question that we all ask ourselves, but also for our institution, it's a real and important question to ask. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Do you have questions? If there are no questions, I will ask one that is in the chat. You mentioned that you have, this year we have 8 BIPs, or how many? 7. And you plan probably to rotate them. Do your partners offer the same BIP, or it is just the same partners but different BIPs? This is the question.
It's a bit different. Like I said, we try to enable as much variation as possible. So in some cases, it's the same BIP rotating, so with the same topic, but with a maybe slightly different approach in a different location. In other cases, it's the same partners drafting in a completely new program. So, but we don't impose any limitations there. It's more up to the organizing partners. Also, maybe something I didn't mention before is the extent to which there's real collaboration in the development and design of the program is also quite different. So in some cases, it's the initiative lies more at our institution, in which when we are coordinating partner in terms of course design, assessments, and the partnership is more located or situated on the level of having or receiving students and receiving guest lecturers. In other cases, it's way more integrated, and there's more co-design of the course, of the learning outcomes, and so on.
Thank you. Are there other questions? If not, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And we can move to the last presentation. And I'm very happy to introduce Thibaut Holtzko. Okay. He's a policy officer from Ghent University, and he works whose works focus on internationalization, the curriculum, and integrating blended mobility formats into program structures and recognition process. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Violetta, for the introduction. Sorry about the geographic diversity. I'm also from a Belgian university, Ghent University. Maybe very briefly also, just to give you a bit of an idea of the scale we're talking about. So I would say Ghent University is a bit of a larger university, about 50,000 students, a bit more. We're also very internationally active. So we have a campus in South Korea and a lot of outgoing students and incoming students, degree students as well. Just to give you some context. Maybe a bit about me, because I think my role is somewhat, well, I'm not going to say unique, but somewhat special. What do I mean? So I work for the central level, the central administration of Ghent University, but I'm part of two teams. I combine two hats. On the one hand, I work on or for the Central International Relations Office, you could say, focusing mostly on outgoing mobility. But on the other hand, I'm also an educational developer, so I'm really working on instructional design, focusing mostly also on internationalization of the curricula, so helping lecturers, study programs, embedding international intercultural competences in their curriculum or course. But I sort of connect those two hats, and I think it's important also for the remainder of the presentation. But just a brief overview of my main focuses. So I already mentioned internationalization of the curriculum. BIPS is a specific one. We're not really looking at blended mobility in different formats yet at Ghent University. International credit mobility, seasonal schools, increasingly also virtual exchange and COIL, which is of course becoming more important in times of budgetary constraints. And I'm also the coordinator of an Erasmus cooperation partnership, PADMICA, maybe you've heard about it. We're developing two blended modules actually on intercultural preparation for outgoing students. So keep an eye on that if you're interested. On helping them actually make the most of their study abroad period, dealing with interculturality, cultural differences, being critical about their own frame of reference, and so on. But then, about BIPS. Just to give you some context, so I also heard the word stepping stone during the panel discussion, which was interesting to hear. Maybe some context. At Ghent University, we've developed a sort of methodology. It's called stepping stone methodology for internationalization, which is basically encouraging study programs to scaffold different international and intercultural learning opportunities throughout the curriculum. So starting in Bachelor 1 with very low-hanging fruit guest lectures, embedding international context, having students think about the way their profession or their subject is being approached differently in other contexts, and then gradually scaling up, I think, the intensity, but also the learning potential of those international learning opportunities when they move through the study program, ending, of course, with long-term mobility, but also other types of internationalization. So we've been promoting BIPS, I guess, it's very similar for all institutions, I guess, as a sort of stepping stone, so for them to dip their feet in the water and maybe become willing to partake in longer mobilities. But we've also really stressed the inclusive side of blended mobility. You can reach students that are maybe hesitant for whatever reasons. There's a plethora of reasons for them not to go on long-term mobility. So also the inclusive side, but also, and I think this is often overlooked, is BIPs and using them as an innovation vehicle in education, new pedagogical approaches, working on generic competences or transferable skills or whatever you want to call them. So that's sort of how we've been promoting them, but I guess as with many of you, probably the adoption at Ghent University has been relatively slow. We've also not been promoting them as hard from the very start. I think with the materials that we've developed that I will show you in a minute, it's slowly gaining momentum, I think. Like the administration and everything surrounding it, the flows are a bit more clear, which I think is really helping for lecturers to focus on just what they like to do and like really the didactic design and creating those learning opportunities. But I think the optics, and this is still very much the case today, are, it's both at the central level and the faculties. For BIPs specifically, do the effort and the resources you commit to it, do they really outweigh the number of students that you reach? So that's, I think, one of the main considerations or one of the main causes for this relatively slow adoption at Ghent University. We do take part in a lot of BIPs organized or coordinated by partners from Ghent University. We've only coordinated a few. I think it's about 3 to 5 per academic year. But most of them have been within the lab of our University Alliance and Light. And I guess already a sort of nuance is not the correct word, but I think one element there that needs to be considered is that there was always extra supporting staff within the Alliance. So we had people working on the Alliance that were acting as on-site coordinators, so they were really supporting and pushing and promoting those BIPs. And I think that's great, and there have been brilliant examples of BIPs within our Alliance, but I don't think it's really sustainable or transferable to other BIPs within our institution. So just a bit of context. And another problem that I also already mentioned was that there remained this fog for a very long time. It's still not all clear today, not all the details are there, but there were many, or a lot of unclarity surrounding the roles, the responsibilities, who should be doing what, when does the central level take over, when is the faculty at play, what deadlines are there, what sort of requirements do I need to meet, a lot of, unclarity and fog surrounding it. Also, we didn't have a procedure really, or a very well written out one for embedding BIPs in our study offer. So that was one of the main problems, and this is where me, and it was actually a working group that I'll talk more about in a second, really started to think about, okay, we should really work on some guidelines, some really step-by-step procedures, also on the pedagogical side, so not only the administrative side. We really tried from the very start to connect different complementary expertises from people working on educational development and from the IROs. Also got the faculty international relations officers on board, and we really started working on concrete material, roadmaps, timelines, checklists, and I have a few screenshots in the next slides. But maybe first, I did my homework. I tried to connect with the HIBLend framework for blended mobility. Quality blended mobility. You can make different connections with what I'm about to show, but I think what I mainly focused on with the working group at our institution was this phase 4, the preparing for the 3 implementation phases. So we really looked at, okay, who do we need to get on board? Diversity experts, experts in digital learning, online assessment. So we put together a team. We also looked at the different parts of blended intensive programs, really clarified, okay, where is this best tackled? Who needs to come and play at which stage? So we really looked into that, and then we started working also on trainings, on documents, and this implementation roadmap, which is only been finalized, I think, at the end of November. It's not even translated in English yet, but I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. So maybe a bit much to take in one slide. These are basically the materials that we have right now, and this is sort of the passive offer, you could call it. So it's what's always available for lecturers and for faculty support staff to look into. We also have more active, I guess, support where we really sit together with lecturers, with study programs, and really look at their course and the BIP plans that they have. But yeah, I think most of you will have a basic information page on the what, why, and how. This is just on our intranet. But then what we spent a lot of time on, it was about a year, were these really detailed administrative guides that really go into every single step of the process from A to Z. And I have a screenshot which will make it a bit more concrete, but this really thinks about everything. So over the year, we talked a lot with different BIP experience experts, but also what was needed on the faculty support staff side. Really looked into, okay, how can we be as clear and as descriptive as possible during every single step? Can we put a timeline on it? Can we put a timestamp on it, on when it should best be tackled or started? Who needs to be involved, and so on and so forth. So this is really for faculty, international relations officers, also the educational developers, but you also have lecturers who just want to be on top of everything. They want to know, okay, what's coming up? What should I be covering next? So they can also look at that. Then we also created an education tip. This is a platform that we have at Ghent University, where we have all sorts of educational advice on how to write good learning outcomes, how to create assessments, what are the things you should be paying attention to when it comes to group work and all that. And we've created a specific one for blended mobility. I've also included a screenshot on that. So this really goes into everything that you need to know on the pedagogical side of BIPs, how to design a good virtual component, the blend of online versus physical, how to design the learning outcomes, what should you be paying attention to in terms of reflection, feedback, and all that. So that's a resource that's also there for the lecturers, for educational developers, quality assurance staff. Then there's the procedure that we wrote to embed BIPs in the education offer. There's a dedicated section now also in the course catalog, and then there's guides for students as well. Then that was for the organizing a BIP at Ghent University itself, and then there's of course the other scenario where you're sending students abroad. It's basically similar material, of course, but with different aspects being highlighted. And these are some just some screenshots. This is, for instance, from the internet page, which really goes into the why of BIPs, and one has covered it as well. It goes into the benefits for lecturers, for study programs, for learners. This is from the education tip, so it's also built in Genially, the same tool that you used for the HIBLend framework, I noticed. So there's like, we divided up into 3 phases: the orientation phase, the setup phase, and the implementation phase. And you can also, or lecturers can also click on those pluses and then gain information on, okay, how should I formulate learning outcomes? How do I make sure that those intercultural competences are also embedded in there? What sort of didactic approaches can I look into, challenge-based education, and so on? What's a good blend? Should I go online first and then the physical part, or a different setup? And what are the advantages, the disadvantages? So it covers, I think, also a lot of the pitfalls that we've learned through the years from what can go wrong. And for instance, as was mentioned, the virtual component just being a nice icebreaker and then it's over. So it tries to sort of already from the design point, or from the design phase, go over those pitfalls. So as I mentioned, it was created by a central working group with complementary expertise. Different experts, challenge-based learning experts, online assessment, blended learning, the IRO. I think that was really valuable to have all those perspectives in there. But then we also sent draft versions to our faculty colleagues who would be working with those materials, with those guides from those very detailed guides. And they gave us a lot of feedback as well. I think we worked on it for over a year, and they're also living documents. So if we get comments, or if something's not clear, or something wasn't thought of by us, we add it to the documents, and they're actually constantly being updated and accessible centrally. And these are just some highlights from the really detailed guide. So it has these little check marks where there's like a very specific step. It's in Dutch, sorry, not translated yet. Very clearly stated, okay, who are the actors in this step? Is there a timeline or like a recommended time frame where you should be doing this? highlighting different things to think about. I think it really turned out great, and we've also gotten some really great feedback from our lecturers that these materials are very handy. It includes very hands-on materials, such as this one, where they can just write down all the names of the different people and roles that will be involved in their BIP, with their contact information, just to have an overview of that. And it also helps when you sit together at the early stages to bring everyone, to align everyone's vision and put all the noses in the same direction. Checklists, just for them to really make it very concrete, have them not think about the administrative side, so that they just print this out and we go over. When I go to those lectures thinking about a BIP, I bring this with me and we go over the different steps, and it really helps to just make it smooth in their head so they can really focus on, okay, how can I create a really great BIP and really focus their attention on what they want to be spending time on, I guess. Yeah, just another example of a checklist that the BIP criteria that they need to meet. Timelines as well, this has also been really helpful, and it's taking into account, of course, the institutional context. There's many different timelines that you need to account for the funding, for the curriculum application, and all that. So it really helps to smooth out the rest of the process if everything is clear on the administrative side. Yeah, that was basically it. I do have a question for you. You can also have a question for me. But I'm really still struggling with finding the right balance between offering really detailed frameworks and guidelines and making the administration as clear as possible from the very start, but also sort of not overwhelming them with all this information and overloading them. And already when seeing the guides, I think they're 20 pages something. They, of course, don't have to go through it from the very start. It's more of like a reference that they can go to when they're stuck at a certain step. But it's this balance with, making sure that everything's clear and laid out before them and that they also know where they're going and what steps are coming up. But also just keeping it a bit light and having them still being motivated to experiment with BIPs. So that's a bit of a tension field and something that I'm still struggling with. I don't know if you have the answer. Maybe there is no answer. I see someone going like this. Yeah. That was basically it from my side. I don't know if you have any other questions or an answer to my question.
Do you have any questions? No, maybe I can just comment.
No, but thank you so much. But I want just to comment to your question, actually, because it makes me reflect a lot on the fact that maybe, I mean, from my experience, then it happens that the administrative staff sometimes do much more of what, I mean, yeah, I think all of us experience this, of what we should do. So, you know, sometimes giving so much detailed things, then they are scary, and then we end up to do all the things we prepare the guideline for us at the end. So yeah, that's what my experience. But I don't have. I would be happy to have a solution because I think all of us are experiencing the same more or less. So,
Yeah.
but thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, I wish you can share the materials with us, but I know that they're very institutional.
They're very specific to our context,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm always happy if you send me an email to
But probably
share them.
because I think there are more partners that they have their own guidelines. We also have, not that nicely prepared, but we can make a group of universities that work on guidelines for BIPs that it could be helpful. I cannot see any other questions, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. All three presentations were very interesting for me. I hope you also took a lot of notes and a lot of takeaways, ideas for you. In my opinion, to wrap it up, the blended mobilities is a flexible ecosystem, in my opinion, of possibilities that the institutions should explore and adjust according to their strategies, according to their needs. We heard about the strategic values of this decision, how the universities decide to go for blended mobilities. And it's very important also to have this support of the institution. It is not easy to cope with all these problems and struggles with blended mobilities if you are alone. So it is a teamwork. You have to have a team of people who are supporting you, from the governments, from those who are behind the policies, through those who help you to design your courses, with all this IT support, digital components, and different other needs that you may need. The design matters. It is not that easy to design a proper and high-quality blended intensive program, but all kinds of blended programs. So it is very important to prepare the online component as good as the physical component. And for this, again, you need this team. And then the administrative stuff, administrative support, not easy. For those of you who are involved in this administrative work, you know that the blended mobilities are much more difficult than the regular Erasmus mobilities, because for the short time of period you have to focus on so many different activities, on so many different needs and supports. So it is not easy, but I hope that you all enjoy the practices, best practices that we heard this afternoon. And if you have more questions, you know who were the presenters, the experts. So use the coffee break to talk to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Violeta. Thank you to all of our speakers for this very insightful set of presentation of best practices. As Violeta was just saying, we're going into our last final coffee break. So I invite you to be back at 3:30, and for our online audience, 3:30 we will resume with our last panel, which will look into institutional strategies and sustainability of blended mobility. So see you in around 30 minutes.